This is Crushing Borders with Anna and Esther.
Hi guys, it's Esther.
And this is Anna, and you're listening to Crashing Borders.
So today we have a very special guest, Kelsey Harlow. I met Kelsey during my year abroad in the States. She was my host sister, and we had an incredible time. And I asked her to be a guest speaker here because she always shares such inspirational stories on her social media that I thought she would be just the person to talk about stress and anxiety. So as a way of introduction, could you please introduce yourself, like your academic life, career path, personal experiences, please?
Sure. Hi. Yes, I'm Kelsey. I have an undergraduate degree in criminal justice, and then I have a master's degree in social work with like a specialty in mental health treatment. And I have been in the field for close to 5 years now altogether, but I have been working as a therapist for like the past year. So it started around the time of the pandemic, which was an interesting time to get started. On a personal level, I have been in therapy myself ever since I was 21 years old. So I have experience like as a client and as a professional.
So, thank you so much for the introduction. So, as we start our first kind of topic about stress and anxiety, like why are you so interested in the topic, or what motivated you to really focus on helping people and to get to know more about this?
So I think that stress and anxiety are experienced by everyone in a variety of ways, but culturally it's expressed differently. Like even here in the States, there are parts of the country where like you just don't talk about it, and then there are other places where that's all that they talk about, is how they're doing with their mental health. And so I just feel like it's happening to everybody, but not everyone is like as open to it. And so I just like to start conversations about it with people. And I think that it's important because if we're able to handle our stress better, then that just elevates everything else in our life. Truly.
And so, how did you learn about this, and what is your motivation? How do you keep learning about it?
So I've been interested in it ever since I was like a high school student. I actually started to take the classes in college as a high school student. The first class that I ever took was about mental health treatment. So I think that I've always had like high anxiety. I'm just an anxious person naturally. And so I think that I wanted to learn how to help myself. And along the way, I realized that, I want to also help other people. So
Yeah, that's amazing that you actually like took this part of basically your anxiety and stress and then turned it into something so powerful to help people. So, like in your experience, what are the factors, or what can be the factors that cause stress and anxiety? And are there like any ways to avoid experiencing them at all? Or is it something that comes with life?
well, I think that stress, like in and of itself, it happens to everyone, and it can't be avoided. Stress, it isn't always a bad thing. Stress can be experienced as a good thing, like if you're like having a baby, or if you have a new puppy, like it isn't always bad, but your brain still interprets it like the same way as like a change. So if anything in your life is changing, you're going to have stress. However, it's how you handle that. um Ways to like avoid it overtaking you is just to be aware of what's happening and to do things to manage it along the way.
And so once you learn that you have this stress, once you're conscious about it, how do you reduce it as it comes along?
So everybody's different, but the things that I personally do is to be aware how it's impacting me in my body. Like I might be having issues sleeping, I might have headaches, I might like overeat, or I might not have an appetite at all. And so I start to learn, like signs that I am starting to become overly stressed. And then I do things to combat it, like, exercising, eating healthier foods is always important, but also just like to do things that you enjoy, like having a conversation with a friend, spending time like with like art or like a good movie that just lets you relax, just like to do things that you enjoy, kind of like the opposite of what's happening in your body.
So as you mentioned before, like not all kind of stress is bad. So there are some kinds that like kind of just like give you a rush to go. But how easily can stress or anxiety spiral into depression? Is there a way to prevent this from happening? And do we need a specialist help to deal with it at that point?
So, depression happens to everyone at some point in their lives, and it can be extremely mild or it can be severe. But I do think that there are people who, if they are overly stressed, then they are prone to depression, and it can happen a lot easier to them. And if that's the case, then it's important to start to recognize like the signs like you're going into a depression. And there are cases when like you might have to be on medication prescribed by a doctor, because it's a chemical imbalance in your brain, and it needs to be corrected before you do anything else. Or that means that like you're working with a counselor, to start to work on like the coping skills. So if it gets to the point where you're like extremely depressed, you aren't able to come out of it on your own, then yes, you probably need a professional.
And now to come more onto the awareness side and to kind of start conversations, especially now with all the students and our members, I think it's so important to have this conversation. So on the behavioral science, what are the main behavioral science factors that someone is stressed or in distress or depressed? And yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think that like the two main ones that are pretty obvious across the board is that you start to withdraw from things in your life. Like you might stop talking to friends as much. You might like stay in your room more. You stop attending like all the things that you enjoy. And another one is that you just start to lose like interest in like hygiene practices, like eating, stuff like that. You just kind of like withdraw into yourself completely. But everybody is different, and other people might be able to hide it. So if it's a person who you're close to, like you really have to pay attention to what's going on, for sure.
So once you realize that they might be like fighting depression or anxiety or just a bigger amount of stress, how can you help with a friend, to a family member?
I think that the biggest thing that you can do is like ask people how they're doing, and just like actually ask them like, hey, how have you been doing lately? And then if you have noticed specific things, then like ask about those things. If you have the kind of relationship that you feel like you can ask, like, hey, I've noticed that you haven't washed your hair in 2 weeks. Like, how you doing? But also just like to be supportive of the choices that they're making to help themselves. Like if a person says, hey, I'm going to start going to therapy, or I have an appointment with a doctor, just be like, that's awesome. I'm really happy that you're helping yourself, just to like encourage them however you can.
And so, kind of to touch upon what you just said, as to encourage people. So, us coming from Hungary and France, we kind of discussed about it with Anna. And when we arrived to the UK, we heard for the first time the terms mental health, stress, anxiety, like in our respective countries. It's not talked about at all. it's a little bit frowned upon, and we only started hearing about it at university, and I thought it's so important. And even when I talk to my friends back home, it's kind of seen as a weakness to talk about mental health, and it doesn't have the same image as I feel in English speaking countries, whether it be the UK or America. So how can you raise awareness about this issue?
I would say to like have conversations about it, like just amongst like your friends, and if you're comfortable, even with like extended family members, like your parents, just like have conversations like, hey, have you guys like heard of this before? How do you feel about like talking to somebody about your problems? Like, you know what I mean? Because if it isn't normalized now, like that starts with us, that starts with you guys, that starts with like the young people, and so just like asking people like, hey, have you ever heard of this? Like, are you like interested in that? Do you think that that would be helpful to you ever? And just like, and then also be open about your own experiences as well. Just be like, hey, like I've experienced stuff like this, and here's how I got through it. And then if you start the conversations, then other people are like, oh, I can talk about that, like it's just like opens the door.
Yeah, for sure. And like, especially like now in these times where there's just already so many things going on that could cause stress and anxiety or even depression, it's just so important to talk about these issues and to raise awareness. So yeah, talking about the pandemic, how has it influenced you personally?
Well, I'm at home all the time. So that's been a huge change. I definitely feel a lot more isolated from the rest of the world. And there have been times when I have like started to experience depression, heightened anxiety at the start of it for sure. I think when everyone was like, what's going on? Am I gonna die? Yeah, so that it definitely had a huge impact on me, and then I'll adjust for a long period of time, and then I'll start to get scared again. So it's kind of like a cycle.
So to get through this pandemic, do you keep a routine? I know that you're pregnant right now. Congratulations. So,
Thank you.
do you try to keep a routine every day, or do you just take the day as it goes?
Yeah, so I definitely try to keep a routine every day, get up around the same time, start working at the same time every day. I do have a job that I can do from home, so I kind of have structure in that way. But then, just like always, like having like a meal at the same time every day, trying to like eat healthy, but like have some comfort food, just like, to add some like spice into the day. And then, just keeping up like all of like the normal like hygiene practices. Even if you're not leaving the house, it's still important like to wash your hair, wash your face, just that kind of stuff, even if you're staying home all the time.
As like we already discussed it with Esther and like with our university friends as well, that there are a few things that we started doing, either some kind of exercise or doing an online course, studying a new language or anything that we might have never done before, or we didn't have the time to do it, but now we do. So have you done any things that you would have never done without this context?
Yes. I over the summer I had a garden that I spent a lot of time in. I don't know if I would have been like out of the house all the time, if that is an activity I would have done. Because it's a huge time commitment. And then also, I started doing online therapy with clients, which was not anything that I ever thought I would do. I kind of had to do it out of necessity, but that's been a huge learning curve as well.
How difficult and different is it to do therapy with clients online compared to real life?
It's a huge change from what I'm used to. I have been meeting with clients in person like my whole career, either as a case manager or as a therapist. So like, like not having like the opportunity to have that connection with people in person was a huge change. And in my opinion, the experience that the client is having isn't as good. I've taken a couple classes like to start to learn how to do it better over time, but it's still hard because the client, is obviously coming in because they want that connection, and it's just not there. Unfortunately, like you're not having the eye contact. I started to have a couple of clients in person in the fall, but then I found out that I was pregnant, so I had to stop because I'm high risk, which was really sad. I'm really excited for after he's born to go back and have clients in person again.
Oh, so it's a he.
Yes, it's a
Wow.
boy. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Do you guys have a name already?
Not yet. We're still figuring it out.
Okay, cute. So do you have any tips for whether it be for students or clients as like a general tip as to how to deal with this challenging period in the pandemic in particular?
Yeah, stay connected to your people, I think is the biggest thing, like have like video chats with your friends. If you can go like out like and talk to them like out at the park or something, obviously staying apart from each other, just like have that connection with people any way that you can. And to get into things that, that spark joy. I know that's a big phrase. If that's like learning new hobbies or skills, but even if it's just like having like a nice cup of tea every day at a certain time that you like have a specific, time to look forward to every day, because if the world was still happening as it was, we wouldn't always have opportunities to do those things. So, you need to take the good with the bad and remember to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Just like staying positive helps so much. So what is something that you wish to accomplish or do once this whole pandemic is over?
I want to go on a trip with
Come
my
to France.
it might happen. I want to go
Definitely.
everywhere.
You guys are welcome in our house whenever.
Yes. Yes. I want to go everywhere that we can. I'm really excited to have the baby and introduce him to people eventually when I'm allowed to. But yeah, that.
Okay. So lastly, my question is in two parts. So are you hopeful with the global context, the national context, and then because this whole conversation was really, genuine and comforting, do you have a highlight of the pandemic?
Yes, I am hopeful. Feel like the world is going through like this like huge transformation right now, and I feel like it eventually it will be for the good. And then yeah, I think the highlight has just been getting to, I mean, this sounds really sappy, but the highlight has been getting to spend more time with my husband, because I am home a lot. Obviously I miss everyone else in our life, but I'm just really happy that I've gotten to spend more time with him here at home. We've gotten, to do house projects together. So
So yeah, if you have a final advice or thought or takeaway from this chat that would help our members and listeners to really focus on their mental health, what would it be?
um I would say that the most important thing is to take care of yourself and to take care of the people in your life right now. I think that is the most important thing.
Also, would you be happy for our members and listeners to connect with you on social media?
Yeah, yes, yeah, that would be totally fine. I'm only on Instagram, and I am on private, but that's just because I have clients. But everyone else, they can request to follow me. That's totally all right.
Look at her
Perfect.
stories, people.
Yeah.
I do post a lot on my stories.
They're incredible. They're the only stories I actually stopped to read.
Oh, that makes me feel really good.
So yeah, thank you so much for coming. Is there anything else you would like to share or add?
Um, I would just like to thank you guys for inviting me to have this conversation. I think it's incredibly important, and I think it's awesome, that like the young people are interested in this. I mean, I still consider myself young. I'm only 25, but yeah, I just I think it's awesome, and just to like stay curious about the opportunities that you have to improve yourself and to take care of people in your life.
So thank you guys for listening to our episode with Kelsey, and stay tuned as we have some really special episodes coming up.